Logos, brand, and identity. So a big part of contemporary consumer life is definitely the idea of the logo and the brand. It's how we identify the products that we use, and it's big business developing these. So the word logos is a term in Western philosophy and psychology, rhetoric, and religion derived from a Greek word variously meaning ground, plea, opinion, expectation, word, speech, account, reason, proportion, and discourse. It became a technical term in Western philosophy beginning with Heraclitus, who used the term for a principle of order and knowledge. For us, these are logos. They are quick and easy brand identifiers, and they are a huge part of modern consumer culture. And the design, development, and rollout of any product is, at this point, completely connected and tied into its brand and identity, right? These are our brands and identities that we all know so well. The Versace Gorgon, or wherever she is, Medusa. You've got the Comme des Garçons play for their mass market line by Rei Kawakubo. You've got Lacoste, Hermes, Fendi, Valentino, Armani. You can identify them all. Gucci, Chanel, fashion, fashion, fashion. I mean, the Chanel C is probably the most identifiable and coveted logo, right? Those crossed C's all over everything means big money. Okay, so monograms are logos that consist of letters, usually brand initials. Think IBM, think CNN, think HP, which is Hewlett Packard, the computer people. HBO is home box office. They are the initials of a few famous businesses with rather lengthy names. With 2 or 3 words to remember, they now use their initials for brand identification purposes, sometimes called lettermark logos, to represent their organizations. A lettermark is a typography-based logo that's comprised of a few letters, usually the initials of a company. The lettermark is all about simplicity. By utilizing just a few letters, lettermark logos are effective at streamlining any company brand if they have a long name. For example, it is simpler to say and remember NASA versus National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Because the focus is on initials, the font you choose or create is very important to make sure your logo is not only on theme with what your company does, but also legible when you print on business cards. Also, if you're not an established business already, you may want to add your full business name below the logo so people can begin to learn who you are right away. And here we have some very famous lettermarks. We've got HBO, we've got IBM, General Electric, Volkswagen, Westinghouse. All of those are lettermarks. Now, word marks, similar to a lettermark, a word mark or logo type is a font-based logo solely focused on a business name. Think Visa and Coca-Cola. Wordmark logos work well when a company has a succinct and distinct name. Google's logo is a great example of this. The name itself is catchy and memorable. Therefore, when combined with strong typography, the logo helps create strong brand recognition. Also, as with a lettermark logo, typography will be an important decision. Since the focus will be on the name, you will need to pick a font or create a font that captures the essence of what your business does. For example, fashion labels tend to use clean, elegant fonts that feel high-end, while legal or government agencies almost always stick to traditional, heavier text that feels secure. Consider a lettermark logo if your business happens to have a long name. Condensing the business name into initials will help simplify your design, and likewise, customers will have an easier time recalling your business and your logo. A wordmark is a good decision if you're a new business and need to get your name out there. Just make sure the name is short enough to take advantage of the design. Anything too long can look cluttered. A word mark logo is a good idea if you have a distinct business name that will stick in customers' minds. Having your name in a great design font will make your brand more sticky. Both lettermark and wordmark logos are easy to replicate across marketing material and branding, thus making them highly adaptable options for a new and developing business. There we go. So these are all word marks. New York Times, Tiffany, FedEx, Bed Bath & Beyond, Crate & Barrel, Johnson & Johnson, Google. They have the name of the brand and attractively designed as a logo, so it functions as a form of marketing itself. Okay, pictorial marks. A pictorial mark, sometimes called brand mark or logo symbol, is an icon or graphic-based logo. It's probably the image that comes to mind when you think logo. The iconic Apple logo, the Twitter bird, the Target bullseye. Each of these company logos is emblematic and each brand so established that the mark alone is instantly recognizable. A true brand mark is only an image. Because of this, it can be a tricky logo type for new companies or those without strong brand recognition to use. The biggest thing to consider when deciding to go with a pictorial mark is what image to choose. You need to think about the broader implications of the image you choose. Do you want to play on your name, like John Deere does with their Deere logo, or are you looking to create deeper meaning? Think how the Snapchat ghost tells us what the product does. Or do you want to evoke an emotion, as the World Wildlife Foundation does with their stylized image of a panda, an adorable and endangered species? So there we go. So here it's purely a graphic, and you have to have a very strong brand association to go with this. Like we all know what Starbucks is. We know the Olympics, Playboy Bunny, Twitter bird, right? Like Domino's Pizza, World Wildlife Federation, Nike, huge, right? Apple. We know it immediately, but this is not for a brand that's starting out because nobody will know who you are and they'll just have this little picture of something. Okay, so abstract logo marks. An abstract mark is a specific type of pictorial logo. Instead of being a recognizable image like an apple or a bird, it's an abstract geometric form that represents your business. A few famous examples include the BP Starburst logo, which is British Petroleum, the Pepsi divided circle, and the striped Adidas flower. Like all logo symbols, abstract marks work well because they condense the brand into a single image. However, instead of being restricted to a picture of something recognizable, abstract logos allow you to create something truly unique to represent your brand. The benefit of an abstract mark is that you're able to convey what your company does symbolically without relying on the cultural implications of a specific image. Through color and form, you can attribute meaning and cultivate emotion around your brand. As an example, think about how the Nike swoosh implies movement and freedom. So these are 3 abstract marks that aren't meant to actually represent anything. They're just attractive graphic symbols. Okay, mascots. So mascot logos are logos that involve an illustrated character. Often colorful, sometimes cartoonish, and most always fun, the mascot logo is a great way to create your very own brand spokesperson or character. A mascot is simply an illustrated character that represents your company. Think of them as the ambassador for your business. Famous mascots include the Kool-Aid Man, KFC's Colonel, and Planters Mr. Peanut. Mascots are great for companies that want to create a wholesome atmosphere by appealing to families and children. Think of all those mascots at sporting events and the great dynamic they create by getting involved with the audience. Okay. I think I'll skip that part. And we'll look at some great looking mascots. You've got the Pringles Chip Man, the Colonel, and the Hawaiian Punch. Okay, so then we have the combination mark. Now, the combination mark is a logo comprised of a combined word mark or letter mark and a pictorial mark, abstract mark, or mascot. The picture and text can be laid out side by side, stacked on top of each other, or integrated together to create an image. Some iconic combination mark logos include Doritos, Burger King, and Lacoste, and of course, Chanel and Gucci. Because a name is associated with the image, a combination mark is a versatile choice, with both the text and icon or mascot working together to reinforce your brand. With a combination mark, people will also begin to associate your name with your pictorial mark or mascot right away. In the future, you may be able to rely exclusively on a logo symbol and not have to always include your name. Also, because the combination of a symbol and text create a distinct image together, these logos are usually easier to trademark than a pictorial mark alone. So these are all graphics and text going together. The Spotify, the Rolex, Pepsi, Pizza Hut, that's the classic one, Converse. So you've got a word mark as well as a logo graphic. Finally, we have the emblem. An emblem logo consists of font inside a symbol or an icon. Think badges, seals, and crests. These logos tend to have a traditional appearance about them that can make a striking impact. Thus, they are often the go-to choice for many schools, organizations, or government agencies. Harvard is a good example. The auto industry is also very fond of emblem logos. While they have a classic style, some companies have effectively modernized the traditional emblem look with a logo design fit for the 21st century. Think of Starbucks' iconic mermaid emblem or Harley-Davidson's famous crest. But because of their lean towards higher detail and the fact that the name and symbol are rigidly entwined, they can be less versatile than the aforementioned types of logos. An intricate emblem design won't be easy to replicate across all branding. For business cards, a busy emblem may shrink so small before it becomes too difficult to read. Also, if you plan on embroidering this type of logo onto hats or shirts, then you'll really have to create a design that is on the simple side, or it just won't be possible. So as a rule, keep your design uncomplicated and you'll walk away with a strong, bold look that'll make you look like the consummate professional. When to use a combination mark or emblem logo. So an emblem's traditional look might be favored by lots of public agencies and schools, but it can also serve any up-and-coming private business as well, especially those in the food and beverage industry. Think beer labels and coffee cups. But remember to play it safe when it comes to detail. You still want a design you'll be able to print neatly across all of your marketing. And those are all great-looking emblems from various prestigious educational institutions. And these are some emblems from the other areas of the industry. Warner Brothers is a pretty classic one. The NFL and BMW, those are all good examples. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about Saul Bass. Now, the whole idea of logo, brand, and identity really rose up with mass marketing, mass advertising after the Second World War, okay? The idea of producing huge amounts of product, volume of product, and also marketing it is a very post-World War concept. And the brand and identity really became very important after that. Now, this fellow, Saul Bass, was an advertising man from the golden era of advertising. Think of the show Mad Men, right? Like the 1950s, early 60s, where there was a very prosperous time in the United States and Canada, and the whole advertising industry grew to support the sales to this new affluent society that wanted consumer goods, okay? So Saul Bass was a brilliant designer. He also was a big showman, like he had a big personality, and we're going to look like all the logos behind him he designed or came out of his studio. He always had designers working for him. So it's not like he was working by himself somewhere. He had a big studio producing all of these logos for corporate clients. So this is one of his movie posters, which makes me laugh. This is from a movie from the late 50s, early 60s. And the one on the left is Saul Bass designed it. Very graphic, very cut and paste, very simple. And then you could see he tried to deliver it to the client, which was the movie production house. And they were like, we've paid all this money for Frank Sinatra and for Kim Novak, and we want them on the poster. So we had to put the stars into the poster. But the left-hand side was totally his original, right? Sometimes you have to work with the client a lot of the times, and they have their input as well. These are some more movie posters he did. And I like this kind of DIY cut and paste ink wash feeling, which is very 1950s, very much a part of 50s graphic design. The kind of mid-century modern feeling that you probably know from furniture was also a big part of design and graphics. And it looked like this in terms of the mass media designed objects. Okay, so he also, as I said, was a big self-promoter. So he designed posters for Alfred Hitchcock movies, the famous suspense director. And the poster on the left is a Saul Bass design for Vertigo. And the picture on the right has an interesting story attached to it. So Saul Bass worked with Alfred Hitchcock, and he was on the set of the movie Psycho. Y'all remember that scene where that poor young woman got stabbed in the shower? That was really like the first really shocking graphic murder scene in cinema history. It sort of opened the door to the slasher, which came after. And Saul Bass, I mean, he was there, but he also has since taken credit for everything. He said everything was his idea, and which I don't know. I wasn't there, but he was definitely someone who had a big personality and liked to take credit for things. So he, according to him, was the one who completely originated the slasher scene in the movie Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. This is another one of his poster designs. And I really like his graphic sense. Like, he had a beautiful feeling for graphic design, obviously. And I like his work. And it's a good example of logo work in a lot of ways. Even though these are posters, they still could very easily function as a logo as well. These are some of his logos. That's for United Air, all these different airlines. This is what a logo he did for Warner Communications. That was Warner Brothers when they diversified. And I love the embossed logo on the writing paper. I think that is really elegant. So you do that when you use a heat stamp onto paper to create that basically 3D textured logo mark on the paper, which I think is $1 million idea. I think it's really beautiful. This was his logo for Bell Telephone, which then became AT&T. And he and his studio designed the first motion graphic when Bell split up and became AT&T. So if you have encountered these products, you have directly contacted the work of Mr. Saul Bass, because he designed, or his studio designed, all of these: Girl Scout cookies, Quaker Oats, and Dixie cups. There you go. Okay, so this lecture used content from these sites. And